Hey, welcome back. We are Daniel chapter 12. We are at the final chapter of the book of Daniel. We're going to wrap our study up today. I hope it's been good for you, beneficial. Many of it's been very good for me and challenging, especially the last portion. Like I said, the last portion of Daniel can be very tricky at times to kind of understand. And I think sometimes the little details that we're just left scratching our head can get in our minds so much that we miss some of the bigger things that are there, that are screaming out at us. So Daniel chapter 12, let's take a look here. It begins, at that time shall arise Michael, the great prince, who has charge of your people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never has been since there was a nation till that time. All right, so this is foretelling of a time that was to come. And speaking of a time of tremendous trouble, great trouble. And it says that Michael is this great prince, this is an angel. We call him the Archangel Michael. He is here, and he says that he is assigned, apparently is assigned to the people of Israel as one who has charge of them. And so in the spiritual realm, spiritual realities of our life and our existence, Michael, the angel, has a special charge over the people of Israel. And so here it says that during this time, he will have a special ministry, some special place with them during this great time of trouble. Now, I find this fascinating because if you go into the New Testament, and you look into Matthew chapter 24, we read the words of Jesus, and he says something remarkably similar. Matthew chapter 24, verses 21 and 22. Jesus says, "There will be a great tribulation, such has not been from the beginning of the world until now, no, and never will be," meaning never will be again. "And in those days, had those days not been cut short, no human being would be saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short." Well, Jesus speaks about that day that was to come, this day of tremendous and great tribulation. So one clear prediction we can do, one very obvious thing we can understand is that time period did not happen between the time of Daniel and Jesus. It was something that Jesus is saying was yet to come. Remember, Matthew chapter 24 is what's called the Olivet Discourse. Matthew chapter 24 is a fascinating read. It's when Jesus is talking about the end. Specifically, he is talking about the destruction of the temple and then the end of all things. And so when he is talking, he's covering all of these things. And so that's where we get this in Matthew chapter 24, where he references, no doubt in mind, here is this prophecy in Daniel chapter 12. Well, another thing that is mentioned here that is also touched upon here in Daniel 12 and Matthew chapter 24, Daniel says in this prophetic moment here, he says that back halfway through verse 1, he says, "At that time your people shall be delivered, and everyone whose name shall be found written in the book of life." And so, written in the book, but he is talking about the book of life. Those names who are written there are going to be preserved. And it says here in Matthew that Jesus says that this time is so severe that it had to be cut short for the sake of the elect. And I do think there is a parallel between the two. Now, again, has this time happened? No, it has not happened. And I believe there's clear evidence that it has not happened, because between Daniel and Jesus didn't happen because Jesus speaks of it as a future thing. Now, some people might say that this is referring to when the temple is destroyed in 70 AD and a time of great despair and a time of tribulation for the Jews. But we would ask ourselves, do we think that was the worst time of tribulation ever? And although very, very severe and horrible for the people in that day, we can look through history and even church history, and you can see many things that were very severe and very severe times of judgment and horrible things. And we can even fast forward to not that long ago, less than 100 years ago, what happened in Nazi Germany when the Jews were gathered together and Adolf Hitler and the Nazis basically had it as their mission to exterminate the Jews as best they could. And it was not the only thing they were focused on, but it was an enormous part of their mission, was to eradicate these people. Now, a fascinating thing happened. A fascinating thing happened because the temple was destroyed in 70 AD, but then from that point in time up until World War II, the nation of Israel, the people of Israel, did not have a land to call their own, to say, this is Israel. The land was always there, but it changed hands and swapped hands over a period of hundreds of years. And then, after World War II, Israel becomes a country again, and they receive their homeland again. And so, this great time of tribulation, I believe, is something that it's yet to come. And I think prophetically, when a person is alive and living, they kind of mark their calendar by seeing times of tribulation and struggle. And this is always a reminder to us because back in Daniel, Daniel is told that basically this. He says, you know what? You've been given enough information. It's time for you to kind of shut the book. Daniel asks the question, what's going to happen? When's the time? And he says, the time is not for you to know yet. It says it's time, times, and half a time. And that's all he gets. But he says, any more details, we're not going to write them down. But this is the last charge he gives to Daniel. The last charge he gives to Daniel is this. He says, the wicked will continue, and they will act wickedly. He says, however, many will be purified, and they'll be refined, and the wise shall understand. But he says, as for you, Daniel, go your way till the end. He says, and you shall rest and stand in your allotted time at the end of days. And so the challenge to us was the same challenge that Daniel received, and this is a challenge for us. Is your place among the redeemed, those who are purified, who are sanctified and set apart, those who experience the resurrection to life and the joy of the Lord forever? Or is someone's position in life, is it with the wicked and those who would experience the resurrection of destruction and the judgment and the wrath of God forever? You're the one who decides that. Between you and God, where are you? Well, hey, that wraps up Daniel chapter 12 and wraps up the book of Daniel. And so I do hope that this has been a profitable study for you. We'll see you.